Alright guys, it's the morning of the Konza Yak Bass League tournament on Carbondale Lake. Never been here before, so we'll just see what happens, try to find a pattern, and try to catch 5 fish today. So just go out and have a good day. Alright, here we go. Okay guys, so we're going to try a little something different today. Give you guys a little bit more insight as to what I'm doing when I'm fishing, especially in a tournament. So anyway, we'll see if you guys like this or not, or whatever. Or I may do it a lot more. I may not do it ever again. So we'll see. But in any case, here I am working along the bank with a buzzbait. I've gone over the buzzbait I used previously before, but it's an Accent Jacob Wheeler buzzbait. It doesn't have a clacker or a knocker or anything like that. It's a little more subtle. So I'm working on a 7'3" Statula Elite rod with a 7.3 to 1 Daiwa reel. And as you can see, we're just working down the bank here. Conditions this morning, on this particular morning, were pretty cloudy, overcast, as you can see. A little bit of chop, and there's the first strike. The fish weren't biting really great. Here I make the mistake. No! As you can see, I reached down there to hit my remote. I was just going to anchor lock myself there real quick. I thought I had him hooked decent, but apparently maybe I didn't. So once I get the trailer and everything fixed up here, and there's always a trailer on the buzzbait, guys. As I've mentioned in my other video, I use a Zoom Z-Craw Jr. as my trailer. I kind of bite just the head off and then thread it on there. It's got a nice keeper on this buzzbait, so it stays on there good. And I always use a trailer hook, and you'll see. Well, maybe you won't see, but I'll tell you that the trailer hook was extremely key this day. But, you know, we're positioning the kayak so that I can make sure to get these casts down the edge of these water willows and the tree line, shoreline in general, to cover, make sure that the bait's in the strike zone as much as possible. So, and you'll see that I'm holding my rod to start off the cast definitely high to get it buzzing on top as quickly as possible. And then I'll be holding it out to my left here to try to keep it as close to where I want it to run through as possible. You know, and all these things matter. You know, yes, it's a buzzbait, and I mean, a lot of people, you can just cast it out there and just cast and retrieve any old way, and you'll probably get a few strikes. But the difference in getting just a few strikes and to turning it into something that can actually really, you know, where you can have a really good day on a buzzbait, there are these little things. This is pretty good strike, but this is a nice fish. And it was pretty common on this day, that the strikes were coming pretty close to the kayak. So, well, made up for them when we lost the lead. Dang. But, and then I don't know why, but these fish were super mad at this lake. They were not happy. So they were just not happy to see me, or certainly not happy to be hooked. So, and this one got it, and because the bites were kind of strange, where they weren't getting it super good, I let this one get it for quite a while, and he actually got this hook all the way down in his gills. So it takes me a while to unhook him. So I kind of cut forward here, and we go ahead and get him measured and everything. I think he's a little over 16 or something like that. Would have loved to have submitted this fish. Unfortunately, yeah, be careful when you take your pictures, because his mouth was still open and he would have been disqualified fish anyway, so I didn't bother even submitting him. But he probably cost me a good inch. Actually, it was more like 16 3/4. Probably cost me a good inch and a half, because I was never able to catch another fish that size or bigger, and ended up having to count a 14.5 inch fish this day. So anyway, back to the buzzbait. So here we are working down the bank. And if any of you guys, other guys, throw buzz baits, you'll know that it's very rare that a buzz bait will run perfectly true, meaning perfectly straight. Um, they generally run a little to one side or the other. They'll run a little left or they'll run a little right. And rather than thinking that that's a bad thing and it's not a great, it's kind of a quality control thing with the buzzbait or whatever the manufacturer ever. It's actually not. It's a good thing.
Really having to let them eat it, guys.
And actually, it's kind of frustrating. What comes up being frustrating is when one gets out of tune from what you. So this one that I'm using right now, it actually runs a little to the left, which is perfect when I'm going out of the bank the direction I'm going down because it actually keeps the bait in the strike zone longer, and that really really helps. In addition to me holding my rod to the side,
All right, just a little short of 18 inches,
holding
guys.
the rod to the side and everything. So having a run to the left works. The problem is that later on in this day, as we get more and more strikes, the fish just beat the crap out of this buzzbait, and it ends up doesn't run left as well. I actually have to switch to another one, and then they also beat that one up, and I had to switch to yet another one. So anyway, it's helpful, when you get the buzzbait, just to note which way each one happens to run, which side it favors, and then you can kind of work that into your approach on the day down the bank, somewhat. I mean, it's not great. I mean, you don't want to switch buzzbaits every time you go down a bank a different direction, but it's something to think about or something that you can kind of work to your favor anyway. So, um, I don't know. So yeah, just we just keep working our way down the bank here, throwing that buzz bait, and you'll see that I make cast after cast after cast, and I don't by any means claim to be the best caster in the world, but I can cast with either hand, and that makes a difference to me. In any, I think there's a right hand cast, which I'm right-handed, so I would normally cast my right. And but I can cast with my left, maybe not quite as well or quite as accurately, but I can do it pretty well in any case. And using right hand bait cast reels, if I cast with my left, I can make even more casts even faster. But the ability to go either left or right just makes it so that I can make more casts and work more angles. And angles make a big difference. Just a slight change in angle can mean that a fish.
All right, 14 and a half.
It appeals to the fish a little bit more. The fish sees it a little better, gets a better look at it. Something along those lines that causes that fish to strike versus maybe not strike. So, but we'll just keep working down the bank here, and um, uh, something else that's not specific to buzzbaits, but anytime I'm working down a bank, and this is more helpful for guys that have a kayak with a trolling motor or whatever, is that the way I do it is that I set my trolling motor to straight, like I am here. So you see my trolling motor is positioned straight, and then I put the motor on a pretty low setting. This would be 1.5, I think, or 2. Some people have numbers or a screen and stuff. The Old Town autopilots have a screen, so you can see the number. So this is like 1.5. 1.5 or 2 is what I usually use to go down the bank, depending upon the wind. But I just go down the bank and I put the trolling motor straight, and I'm steering with my feet, so I can go almost entirely hands free, other than the times where I have to adjust the speed or maybe hit spot lock or something like that. So I get to make a lot of casts before I have to make any adjustments because I'm making all the adjustments with my feet. Now, this works with the trolling motor, obviously, when you have foot steering. Now, if you have a trolling motor and you don't have foot steering, which is pretty common, obviously, a lot of you guys who have the Motor Guide XI3s or the new Tarovas or whatever other trolling motor you put on the front of your kayak. I mean, you could still use, your rudder, your handle steer or whatever. Not most of the times the steering knob is on the left, and you can still use that to just work your way down the bank. You're just making small adjustments here and there, and it just lets you cover water quickly, efficiently, and make more casts. And more casts, more times that your bait's in the strike zone, the more chances you have to catch fish, obviously. So, and just another little tip. When you're working on a bank in a kayak, versus working one spot or not. I don't know this lake at all. This is my first time there, so I'm just, working my way down the bank and trying to figure out what the fish are doing. So, and I'm casting in trees a lot too, which is just great. But, I don't know whether or not it was they were biting better in front of these water willows or not. It kind of seemed like maybe there's a few more fish in the water willows, around the water willows. So, just keep working down the bank. I'm kind of getting more towards the back of this little arm here and noticing that it's getting shallower. So I'm kind of thinking about right now whether or not I'm going to keep going. So look at that. Look how late that strike was, how close it was to the kayak. That's how these fish were biting that day. And so, sometimes I hear about guys that miss a lot of fish on a buzzbait, and I'll tell you that there's a couple reasons for that. One, it could be the line you're using, or the rod you're using, the reel you're using. It could be all those factors. Okay, it's for when it comes to a buzzbait. To me, you want a reel that's faster. You want a 7-gear ratio reel or 8-gear ratio reel. You don't want anything too slow. That way, it's easy to keep the bait on the top, and it's easy to catch up to fish, to set the hook, or keep them hooked up when they're heading back towards your kayak or your boat or whatever. But braided line too. Now it makes more of a difference when it's far away. But if you're using mono, and I know some guys still use mono out there, and I think that those guys.
All right, 15 and a half.
And I used to use mono once upon a time myself. Those guys that still use mono, I think they've adjusted to it. And I think in general, if you're using mono, you need a little bit heavier rod. Definitely a longer rod would help a little bit in terms of trying to get that hook set far away. So, but yeah, it's a combination of rod, line, and reel to make it work right for the buzzbait. For me, it's 30-pound braid. It's a 7.3-to-1 reel, and it's a 7-foot 3-inch medium heavy rod. So, my day's moving on here. The buzzbait bites kind of died, so I'm switching to a belly weighted swim bait that has a little spinner on it. So it has a spinner that hangs on the hook underneath the belly, and it kind of continues the same way here. The strikes this day, the strikes are kind of, they seemed late, they seemed light. Not on this video actually is one fish that I actually caught in midair as he came off the hook. And a lot of times when I'm hooking these fish, they're actually, the lures popping out of their mouths once they get in the net. So, but in any case, kind of working the same areas, same type of cover. Still working the water willows. And this is just another one of those angry fish.
A little over 13 inches.
And the smallest fish of the day so far. Another late strike.
Little guy.
And the smallest fish of the day so far. This I'd switched to a little spinnerbait here. And didn't last very long because I didn't like the size of that fish.
GoPro, stop recording.
Now here, I'm on this is the main, what do I call the main lake of this smaller lake. And obviously there's more wind. And this area was rockier. And so I decided to try a bottom bait here, and I went with a weedless headed Ned rig. It's a 1/15 ounce, and I used a Z-Man hula stick as the plastic. and I got a bite right away from this fish. So I was marking a lot of bait around here and a lot of fish. So this is kind of one of the reasons why I decided to go to this approach, where his casts were a little more off the bank, and that was a little fat fish.
GoPro.
So you can see the more rocks there. You know, that wasn't really present in the arm we were fishing before. And this is a better fish. You can hear him pulling a little bit of drag. And in this situation with the wind and everything, I'm using spot lock, guys, and I am, you might see over the right there, the bottom right, you'll see that I have a Minn Kota GPS heading sensor, or puck. It's a heading sensor. Anyway, that way I can spot lock. You can spot lock without it, but this allows me to spot lock jog. So that allows me to move in 5-foot increments, any direction. So what I do here generally when I'm working into the wind like this, and I'm working a slower bait, you know, I'm not like casting, retrieving. I usually put it in spot lock, and then I will use spot lock jog to move up the shoreline or right or left a little bit if I need to.
GoPro, stop recording.
So it'll move 5 feet forward or 10 feet forward, or if I hit it 3 times, 15 feet forward, and then it'll lock itself in a new spot. So we're back to the swim bait here. And that's just another one of the example, another one of those lighter strikes where I just didn't get it. The fish didn't get it real good. And I actually didn't have it on video, but I lost a really good fish in this area. That would have definitely helped me be a little bit more competitive. Now we're on the other side of the lake and we're heading back towards the dam and the ramp. I just decided to try this area over here, mainly because the wind is pushing in on it, and it had a little bit more depth than some of the areas that were further south. You know, there's this little point here that kind of made by some rocks and some water willow. I was kind of feeling like I was going to get a strike here. And making those casts as close to the water willows as I could. I wanted to fish. There you go. Not a big fish, but I wanted to fish in those water willows a little bit more. And I mean, it's not something that I'm great at, punching into those water willows and stuff, but I have done it in the past. But I didn't feel like there was a lot of water on these water willows. Even though the water was murky, and I know they'd gotten some rain recently, I kind of felt like the water had dropped not too long ago, and there wasn't much water on those water willows to where it would be really productive. So anyway, now I moved down to the dam, and I'm throwing that swim bait. And these are days where sometimes the dam, even though I know there's a lot of guys that kind of shy away from the dam, and I'm kind of one of them lots of times, but I don't really like fishing a dam necessarily, because in my experience, it's usually smaller fish, especially in the summertime. But when the wind pushes in on it like this, or pushes in on any kind of rip-rap type bank, pushes bait in there, what it actually does is it actually pushes in like little micro organisms, little things, plankton and stuff, but whatever, that the shad feed on, little bugs, little things like that they actually eat. And then so the bait moves in there following them, and then of course the bass follow as well. So I work my way down this bank. Again, I think I have the trolling motor here on like 2.5 to compensate for the wind that's pushing me in there, and I'm steering with my feet and I'm going down there with the swim bait. Another fat bass, little fat bass. The bass on this lake are very healthy. So, and I got a lot of bites along this stretch on the swim bait. Didn't hook up with all of them, but caught a decent number of them. And I think maybe one of them helps me here somewhere along the way. But overall, I mean, just a super healthy lake, a pretty satisfying day in terms of numbers. I mean, I caught a lot of fish. I just didn't, I had that one camera mistake, and I had another nice fish that I lost that would have helped me be a little bit more competitive. And there's an angry fish there, man. So that would have helped. But
13 inches.
in any case, a really good day and a fun lake. Especially it's summertime. I mean, we were pretty lucky this day. It was a lot cooler because of the cloud cover and the wind, and we even got rained on for a little while. So it was definitely a lot warmer later on in the day, and it's supposed to get like in the hundreds here coming up. So anyway, just making sure that this the swim bait looks proper. It's really important the swim bait's straight, otherwise it's not gonna swim correctly. I'm using so it's an owner flashy swimmer is what it's called. It's a 1/4 ounce with a 5/0 hook, and then the swim bait actually is a Rapala Crush City Mayor. It's a 4-inch bait. It's nice because it has a belly slot for the hook, so that it helps with the hookups. I mean, it's basically, it seems like it's made perfectly for this bait, and I mean, it works really well as far as I'm concerned. Hookups could always be a little bit better, but you're going to have that when you have a single hook swim bait style there. That's not like totally exposed hook. So, but yeah, like I said, lots of bites along this way here. I know one of the other guys, Shannon, said that he had gone and worked his way along the bank here to finish out his limit. So he maybe he got some of the better quality fish that I missed out on, because he would have been here earlier than me. Because he ended up finishing right ahead of me in second place. So maybe he got a few more quality fish out of here.
Stop recording.
Now we're off the bank. We're working our way back into that arm that we were fishing in the morning, but just on the opposite side. And I'm going back to the swim bait again here. See if we can pick up a few fish. I had switched to the buzzbait some again because I was trying to get one more or two or maybe a couple more quality fish to cull out a couple, and try to move up into second place, despite the errors I made earlier in the day. But I just wasn't getting any strikes on the buzzbait anymore. But it seems like some of these fish still wanted the swim bait, so I was just hoping for a strike from a better fish somewhere along the way instead of this little dinky guy.
Okay.
And now we're on the back on the same bank that we started on. We're heading back up to that main lake point, and I'm going to get a few more bites here to kind of finish up my day. Give me a little excitement at the end, but not give me any size, unfortunately. But water willows all along everywhere this lake. Makes for pretty good cover for these fish, and I'm sure it probably helps with a really good spawn too. And there's a lot of people in these boats. I guess there's a lot of walleye and sawguy in this lake, so these people are out fishing for those, as well as there's a lot of white bass in this lake. And that's it. I think that's the last catch, guys. Anyway, so I got third in this. It seems like third is my number right now with the Conzo Yak Bass League. So, but anyway, I don't know. I hope this was helpful. Maybe it's a little more entertaining. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time when we get out there again. Thanks.